All right, y'all, we are live on this beautiful Monday morning. God bless everybody in the name of Jesus, Yeshua the Messiah. I do pray you and your family are super blessed. The question in this video, guys, is it game over for Bitcoin? All right, we're seeing some crazy things here. We're seeing some very interesting, crazy things here, okay? We're seeing OG Bitcoin whales dumping Bitcoin. Pretty crazy stuff, actually. Moving Bitcoin onto exchanges. Things are looking bearish. Last time we had a bearish October. November was not the best month. We're going to be talking about that today. Make sure to like the video because if we can get 1,000 likes within the first half hour, we will be giving away 1,000 USDT. We're going to be talking about everything that's happening right now with Bitcoin, but we have to give a major shout out to everybody in the chat. First of all, shout out to Crypto2424. OMG, we got the same setup, no home. Shout out to Greeny Ninja 3244. Good afternoon. Shout out to J Armo and Spicy Noodle 424. Sada was down 2 mole. He's down 2 mole. Shout out to Red Elephant. Shout out to Splash Fire Films. God bless you, Splash. Shout out to K Glay BKK. Fake pump. Look, there's no such thing as a fake pump. All right. You mistakenly closed your short. You need a short entry. Well, any pump we get could give us a nice short entry. Major shout out to Larry Garcia. And a major shout out to Spartan Wrestler in the house. He says, smash the likes, people. Smash the likes, people. Okay? Shout out to Hussein Bashir. He says, hey, yo, men. He's talking to all you men out there. All right? Shout out to T1M3ATK who says short-term bear market IMO. You know, I kind of feel like we could be heading into some serious downside. All right, be honest. Shout out to Tor ADR who says, need Bitcoin to bottom so I can get some gains to buy a walking pad. Yeah, man, a walking pad, that's the way to go, to be honest with you. Major shout out to Art Make Nev 3738. This is the end, he says. Bear market has begun. Shout out to Make Me a Millie. He says, if you don't like the stream before you enter chat, you're gay. Gay. Shout out to Flippa Frank and shout out to Jonathan Morris 7775. Why aren't I rich yet, guys? Well, the reason why Hopium Copium answers, he says, is because it's a fake pump before new lows. A fake pump before new lows. Can we just dump to 97 already? Sheesh! I know, right? Seriously, man. Manipulation, says Mick Eyes. This beat is really anxiety inducing. I'm so sorry if the beat is making you anxiety. It was left translated. It was a left translated cycle. Azizullah 2949 N3K says, I have no F star king words. Sammy White 5504 says bear market started after December peak. By the time influencers say we're in a bear market, it will be almost over. Well, honestly, yeah, typically by the time we acknowledge the bear market, it's time to be buying, for sure. Shout out to Logitech 1. Well, isn't it also kind of the cycle to make people think the bear market is here and then fly? Yeah, I could get down, bro. I could get down with that, man. I could get down, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see. That's the problem. We don't know that, and we are scheduled for a pullback, and I have dirt in my eye. I was out in the garden pulling weeds. I got dirt in my eye. Oh, man. Got dirt in the eye. We have some major macro bearish signs, okay? I'm just going to be real. Jonathan, he says, ass market. Ass market, okay. I'm still bullish, says Delfino Romero. What is a fake pump if the price is pumping is going up? Exactly. That's how I feel. Okay. First of all, very interesting things going on. First of all, we do have some crypto whales putting Bitcoin onto exchanges, all right? We got 2 huge Bitcoin whales. They've transferred massive amounts of Bitcoin to exchanges, sparking renewed market anxiety about potential sell-offs. So after a bearish October, we open up November bearish, and we've got some on-chain analytics showing that potentially some bears, some whales, or maybe they're whalish bears, or maybe they're bearish whales, are moving Bitcoin onto exchanges, all right? Also, we got the famous trader, Bitcoin OG, who sent 13,000 Bitcoin to Kraken since October 1st. while early Bitcoin adopter Owen Gundin moved 3,265 Bitcoin also to Kraken on since October 21st. All right. And this is all verified on chain. Very interesting stuff. Are these Bitcoin OGs taking profit? Well, here's the thing, guys. All right, let's just be honest with Nate here. The reality is we are printing some pretty significant top signals. If we go to Coinbase here, you can see that we have just confirmed yesterday evening a bearish divergence on the 2-month time frame. All right, a bear div on the 2-month time frame. What does this mean? What does this mean? A bearish confirmed divergence on 2-month time frame. Look, you guys know Jason Casper. He gives it to you straight. He never gives it to you gay. I'm gonna give it to you straight. The last time this happened, it was the top. In fact, the time before that, it was also the top. All right, this is the all-time index. It happened back in 2018. It was the top. It happened back in 2021. It was the top. It happened right now, last night. Now, obviously, we can't know if the top is in right now, but I mean, it's a historic signal that's quite bearish. Now, here's something else to keep in mind. Does it mean that the exact top price is in? No. This is where it happened last time here, guys. And we still had half a year of trading literally at the exact same price before the actual bear market began, before the actual downtrend began, right? We had it confirm in May 2021, and then we actually even made a higher high in November 2021, about 184 days of sideways before the big drop, right? So it's not necessarily that I'm saying the exact high price is in, but what I am saying is the writing is definitely on the wall for a large pullback coming sooner than people want. Now, if we go back to the Bitcoin all-time index here, we can see that in 2018, when that red dot confirmed, there was no chop city. It was just straight down. All right, it was just straight down. Now, something else to keep in mind here, the last time we had a bearish October was in 2018, guys, all right? The last time we had a bearish October was right here in 2018, and that November just so happened to be, well, a massive purple candle, all right? And so back in 2018, we get the confirmation of the red dot. That happened in March. So even back in 2018, we still had about 6 months before the big drop happened. But we can at least say that when we print this bearish divergence on a 2-month time frame, we shouldn't expect an insanely bullish market to continue. We should expect sideways and down. So where does that leave us? We've got some bearish on-chain analytics. We got some bearish technicals here. Where does that leave us? Well, as long-term position holders, guys, I'm going to be honest with you, and I've been very honest with everybody, and maybe the future will show me to be a fool. But I'm 80% out of my Bitcoin at $120,000. All right, I personally, at $120,000, am 80% out of my spot Bitcoin. All right, so this is where I got 80% out of my spot Bitcoin right here, okay? This is the Bitcoin that I bought in 2022, all right? So the Bitcoin that I bought down here, I am 80% out of at $120,000. Maybe I'm a fool. Maybe I'm an utter idiot. It could be. But I'm expecting quite a big pullback in 2026. 2026, I'm expecting quite a large, significant pullback, all across the market, we're seeing bearishness. Just in general, we're seeing the ETFs, outflows, just in general. Things don't look the best right now. Now, that's on this perspective that I'm giving you right now. We're talking within the next 6 months, okay? But that doesn't mean we can't have opportunities to long and short along the way, all right? Now, make sure to smash up the likes, guys. I know people hate bearish videos. I know people hate bearish things on YouTube, all right? But smash the likes, guys, because here's the thing. I'm just trying to be objective here. I'm trying to be objective, and I understand everybody wants this time to be different. I understand people aren't ready for a bear market. I understand we didn't have an altcoin season. I understand all these things. But the longer time goes on and the more we print these signals here, the less I can ignore them and the less I can say, well, I know it's there, but we're still going to get that one last big push. Look, we still might get that one last big push, but I can say I'm very certain, personally, that we're going to see a large pullback in 2026. All right? That's just my own personal thing here. All right? We just formed the right shoulder of a head and shoulder. Weak cycle if the top is in here. Well, we have a lot of strange things going on economically, in general. So here's how these bear markets work, guys. Here's how the bear markets work. You know, the bear market, how long does it typically last? It lasts like a year. It lasts like a year. All right? It's a really short time. A year from now, in the fall of 2026, the bottom's going to be in. Right? It's not that big of a deal. You can see we top out here in November 2013. And then basically the fall of 2014, the winter of 2015, that's the bottom, right? Over here we top out in 2017, the fall of 2018, winter of 2019, that's the bottom. We top out here in the fall of 2021, fall 2022, winter 2023, that's the bottom. It goes by really quick, guys, right? It's all of a sudden, it's the spring, the summer, and the fall, right? It's 3 seasons only of bearishness. And we're on these very high time frames here with these confirmed divergences. So we got a bearish div on the 2-month time frame. We have confirmed bearish divergence on the monthly time frame. We have confirmed bearish divergence on the 2-week time frame. Money flow beginning to come out. The weekly time frame, this has been ambiguous looking the entire time, but right now, what I don't like about the weekly is the fact that the momentum is continuing to come down, and we're potentially breaking our cycle here, guys, of the bull trend, the uptrend pattern on Market Cypher B. We're starting to break structure of the bull trend on Market Cypher B. What is the bull trend? Well, the bottom is marked by the bullish divergence. All right, the bottom is marked by the price making a lower low and the momentum waves making higher low. That always marks the bottom of a macro downtrend. Then you get your first push, change of market structure. All right, our first change of market structure on the weekly was in January 2023. That is when Jason Casper flipped bullish publicly on YouTube. In January 2023, when we made a higher high in the weekly, that was the confirmation that the downtrend is over, right? So then what happens is, after we get our first higher high, we print a trigger wave on Market Cypher B with continued momentum, our first continuation signal. Then we get continuation signal number 2 and continuation signal number 3, which are hidden bearish divergences. Now, after that first momentum wave of continued direction, we look for price to make higher lows like this, higher low, higher high, higher low. And when we make those higher lows, you look for a lower momentum wave, okay? As soon as this pattern stops, it's over. So even if we come down like this and make a weekly trigger wave here, this is what's likely going to happen. Because what needs to happen for continuation, we would need to make a much lower wave than this while still maintaining a low higher than what we made in April. And I just don't know if I don't know if that can happen right now. I could probably see us maybe coming down, dipping below 100K and forming a wave like this on the weekly, right? Like this. And in this context, after forming the bottom signal with 3 continuation signals, but then printing a really macro bearish signal here, it makes more sense to me that, yeah, in fact, we're seeing this start to really roll over now. And we're going to start to see our momentum come way back down low here and the money flow come back down low. All right, this is what I'm seeing here on the weekly right now. Because, again, what we would really need to see here, if we want to see continuation, is we would need to see price hold April's low. April's low, like 75,000, but also give us a momentum wave lower than negative 42. And it's possible, guys. It's possible. But I don't think it's probable right now. It's possible, but not probable. What's most probable, in my opinion, is that we're going to come and make our first higher low, but the momentum wave is also going to be higher, which is not strong. That's a weak momentum wave. okay? Now, let's zoom in a little bit here. Let's zoom in. Let's go to our daily time frame on Bitcoin, okay? Because there are some other very significant things that are happening right now. First of all, I think it's important to just recognize the fact that we are losing a pretty important resistance here, and it's just the basic like trend line kind of stuff, right? We have this very clear trend line that we are in fact losing. It was respected once, twice, 3, 4 times. We're breaking down and we're back testing, right? We saw something very similar to that over here, right? We had this very key resistance. I'm sorry, support. We lost it with the back test. We had quite some downside right there. All right. So we shouldn't ignore the fact that Bitcoin is losing major support. I mean, this is just something that Bitcoin always does, right? We can look back and see whenever we have these major supports that Bitcoin respects, when we lose the supports on a high time frame with bearish divergences, it leads to continued downside, okay? So, you know, it's not looking the best here on these higher term time frames. Now, let's zoom in. We're on the daily here, and let's not forget what we are dealing with right now is this, okay? We are dealing with the breakout and the back test of when Trump has won the election. So let's not forget our major resistance goes back to May 2021. It was respected in May 2021, November 2021, and then it was respected in March 2024. And basically, guys, this is our major support resistance flip here, right? This is our major level. And the price action that we should be interested in as traders is what's happening in this area here. Because this is price discovery territory. And after the breakout of this massive range that spans 3 years, we're now forming a range up here, okay? So this should interest us very, very much. And here's what we have. All things considered here, I would say that it becomes much probable, now that we're below 117,000, that we eventually make our way back down towards the mid to low 90s. Why do I say this? Well, because that's our last low, and it's the high volume node of the range here, okay? This is going to be our next major target to the downside, the low to mid 90s, all right? If we come down to the low to mid 90s, this is where we should be looking for a bounce to happen, right? And this bounce could very easily turn into another lower high, which takes us back down to the bottom of this Trump wins the election range, all right? This is just really what Bitcoin loves to do. We have clearly defined highs, right? Bitcoin trades above the clearly defined highs. We come down. We've got our clearly defined lows. Bitcoin comes down, trades underneath those clearly defined lows for a while. And then our bear market ends, right? Our downtrend ends. And then by the time we're in the fall of 2026, right, then we start to come back up again, right? This is kind of what seems most probable to me right now. And again, this is actually a very healthy move for the market, because it's going to allow us to consolidate, trade sideways here. Now, in the high time frame, this is going to be trading sideways. In the low time frame, this is scary for people because we're going from 120,000 to maybe 65,000, right? It's very scary for people. But this is a very important zone of support down here. All right, if we take our Fibonacci from the low to the high here, you can see we've got Fibonacci golden pocket right there. We've got the 786 right there. And not only that, but if I'm not mistaken, do we also have like a major VWAP from this area here? Yeah, we have the anchored VWAP from the bear market bottom here. Very, very interesting level. All right, so that is one area I would keep my eyes on. The two main areas to keep our eyes on is going to be between 94 and 96. And then down here, I'd say between $65,000 and $75,000. This would allow us to have a 50% pullback, 45 to 50% pullback, all right, from the all-time high, which I think lines up nicely with the fact that, yeah, we are seeing ETF money come into the market. So a lot of people are saying this time the 4-year cycle, we're not going to see as crazy of a pullback. Yeah, I could be down with that. We don't see as crazy of a pullback. Instead, we see like a 50% pullback. And even in this uptrend, right, we've seen 30% pullback back here. We've even seen right over here another 30% pullback. So we're scheduled for a major pullback now. We've got bear divs on these high time frames. I think a 50% pullback, that's not so bad. That's pretty good. 50%, the 50% retracement, right? The 50% retracement, that's a really key retracement level, all right? That's kind of my macro outlook as we head into November, and we were expecting kind of big all-time highs. Now, we're also seeing the fact that altcoins are not really performing at all, right? This is just showing the comparison of Bitcoin versus altcoin performance here. Altcoins are really struggling right now. And that gets me a little bit discouraged about our altcoin season that I'm still hoping for. And to be honest with you, my plan for alt season is just to do nothing. Really, do nothing. Just I'm going to continue to hold my altcoins. I'm not selling them low. Eventually, things are going to pump again. But yeah, I'm definitely not going to sell them low. So let's zoom in more and let's go to our 4-hour time frame and let's talk about what's happening locally here. Okay? Let's talk about what's happening locally here. Like I said, the top I believe is in, but that doesn't mean we can't see Bitcoin at $130,000. What do you mean, Jason? You just said the top is in, but now you're saying we can see $130,000? Yeah, yeah, here's why. Because we have a sideways range, okay? This is our sideways range. So coming down to the bottom of the range, we could still get a bounce. We could come up to the top of the range and we get a rejection. Remember, the macro high time frame signals are telling us the top is in a sense where if you sell your spot, you're doing good. But if you're leverage trading, there's always an opportunity. The Bitcoin index, if we go there and we look at the 2-month bearish divergences, we can see that last 2-month bear div, we chopped around the range for half a year before the big drop. And the time before that, well, we kind of basically just traded sideways before a massive drop, right? So we need to keep that in the back of our mind. So coming back to our 4-hour time frame, I think it's pretty clear right now that our local sideways range is going to be this. We have our clearly defined lows right down around here, right, from that wick we made, and we have our clearly defined highs right around here, around 117,000. We should obviously be looking for long trades as we come down toward the bottom of this area. We should be looking for short trades as we come up to around 117,000. If we reclaim 117,000, objectively speaking, we're reclaiming major resistance, which means there's no reason why we can't look to come up to the overall range high at around $130,000, right? We're taking it level to level. This is why if we lose this box down here at 102, 100,000, we look to take the low out here and come back to our next major volume level of around $96,000, $97,000, right? As traders, not as long-term holders, but as traders, these are the levels we should be aware of. Because no matter a bear or bull market, these are the levels that are likely to give us the trades, the big trades, the money-making trades, regardless of whether we're in a bull or a bear market, all right? Regardless whether we're in a bull or bear market. Now, the long trade I'm currently in right now, this is actually Boyan's level from this morning. Boyan gave this level around just below $106,000. And we came down to this area just below 106. We dipped down, and as we dip down, you could take a look at Market Cipher B, and Market Cipher B is giving us some local bullish divergence, right? Some local bullish divergence, money flow getting higher, momentum getting higher here as we came down to support. Now, personally, I'm viewing this current position here as a scalp. Shout out to Boyan, by the way, one of the instructors in the Casper crew. He streamed this morning and gave this setup in the Casper crew. So I figured, hey, if it's Boyan's level, let me go for a little long here, right? Boyan, one of the best traders I know. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I feel that, yeah, we're probably going to come lower. I think we're probably going to come down towards $100,000. I think we're going to come back down into the low of this range here. So far, there is absolutely no sign of strength on this bounce at all. Every single bounce we've gotten along the way has led to a not good outcome, right? Even this up here didn't even hit major resistance. This right here, man, we tried to get a bounce, just couldn't even do it. Boom, fall right through. We can't even make a local higher high right here. I would expect that we do come back down a little bit lower here locally, all right? It is a Monday, typically false move Monday. And so that's pretty much my outlook for Bitcoin. On the high term time frame, I have to be bearish. On the medium term, lower term time frames, I have to be looking for longs at our supports of around 100,000 and then around the mid to low 90s. If in the event of a rise, I would have to be looking for shorts around 117,000, where we have our Fibonacci golden pocket, our value area high, and also a high volume node right around 117,000. Now, when we start looking at Bitcoin dominance, we can see that, interestingly enough, during this Bitcoin drop, the altcoins are getting absolutely wrecked, man. During this drop, the altcoins have been getting absolutely wrecked. Bitcoin has been trading in this disgusting channel, all right? Now, on October 10th, we actually saw people FOMO out of altcoins into Bitcoin, which is nice, right? It's always nice to see people realize, whoa, altcoins are dumping. Let me put my stuff into Bitcoin because I know Bitcoin's legit and these altcoins, right? But look at what's happening here. As Bitcoin is dumping, people are moving into Bitcoin. People are not very secure in altcoins. This is really not a good sign for the altcoins right now. The fact that we're breaking out of this channel on the Bitcoin dominance, this is not good for alts, right? This is really not good for alts. Now, overall, this chart here, if we zoom out, like locally, this is not good for alts. If we zoom out here, if we get a scenario where, let's say, Bitcoin does actually get a nice bounce from around $100,000, and we actually do see money start to come back into the crypto market, this is actually setting us up for a nice altcoin pump if we actually break down from this channel to the downside, because this is a bear flag, guys. This is a bear flag, right? So this is bullish for altcoins because the Bitcoin dominance chart inversely correlated to the money that's going into altcoins. If money's coming into Bitcoin, it's coming out of altcoins, right? And so I wouldn't be surprised, actually, still, even though things look so bearish, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Bitcoin dominance drop below 50%, but things would have to happen just right. They would have to happen just right for that to happen now. And again, like I said, I'm still in my altcoin positions, but I am not very confident in them. I'll be honest with you. I'm not very confident that we're going to get an altcoin season now. I wish we would. But as we're in November, I'm losing confidence in that. Our only hope is December, January, honestly. That's what I feel. Because you can't be printing 2-month bearish divergences on Bitcoin and expect that bull run to really continue, right? So everything's going to happen perfectly in order to get a real altcoin season. We're going to have to see Bitcoin get a double top, right? We would really have to see Bitcoin get a double top where Bitcoin goes back up to 130. Very possible, right? Remember, we're trading our sideways range between 100,000 and 130,000. So it's possible, even though the overall top is in, it's possible for us to chop sideways between 100 and 130K, come back up, make a double top. And so if Bitcoin makes a double top, we hit 130,000. Then we might see some euphoria and we might see some money come back into altcoins. You know, I hate the fact that traditional finance influences crypto, but Jerome Powell saying, you know, don't count on a December rate cut. If he starts to change his tone in November, maybe that could facilitate Bitcoin getting a double top. And then we could actually see some altcoin stuff. We go to the 2-month on Bitcoin dominance here. And, you know, we got the bearish top here on Bitcoin dominance. So it's a good look. The breakdown of this channel on the 2-month, it's a good look for expecting an altcoin pump if things happen properly. Monthly time frame, we have a nice top here. Let's go to the weekly. So we had some nice bearish divs here on the weekly. We had our first wave underneath here. So yeah, to me it looks like this is probably could give us another little bit of something like this. And if we do get something like that, that would actually be perfect. Bitcoin can make its double top, right? Maybe we backtest the channel again, and then we start to fall, right? That would actually be nice. A nice scenario for expecting altcoins still to hit all-time highs, even though we're seeing macro top signals printing for Bitcoin. Let's take a look also at altcoin dominance. So again, we're recognizing the fact that with altcoin dominance, we are trading in this channel. We recognize the fact that we're holding key support, which is not bad. Right? It's not bad to be holding key support. We also recognize the fact that, you know, let's say we do see something like this happen, where we get a move up to the 1.272 Fibonacci extension on altcoin dominance. You know, this again would have to happen with the scenario of a Bitcoin getting like a double top, getting another pump, making people really bullish again. And then when people are feeling really bullish, we start to see money flow into altcoins. So, you know, there is a possible altcoin season that could happen here, so long as we're holding this box of, I'd say, around $800 billion. And I don't think it's so crazy in the right market conditions to see, you know, us come up to maybe 1.4 to maybe 1.6 trillion dollars. You know, that's not so crazy. That's not so crazy considering, right, since April, we've seen it go from 650 million up to 1.1 billion, right? So we've seen like $500 million come into altcoins since April. So it's not so crazy to think that we could go from, you know, around 1 trillion up to 1.4, 1.5-ish trillion. I mean, we've seen that happen since April, right? And we know when altcoins start to run, they start to run. I mean, November 2024, that was our last real altcoin season, spurred on by Trump winning the election and all this. All the meme coins start to pump. You know, when altcoins run, they run. I mean, this was the weekly chart, so a month and 1 week of pure upside. We saw in 1 month it go from 500 billion up to like 1.6. So we saw like $600 million come in a matter of weeks, right? It's not out of the question for something like that to happen. It's just we need all the elements to be perfect for that actually to happen. Let's take a quick look at USDT dominance, because this is going to give us the overall health of the bull market in general. You know, this is inversely correlated to Bitcoin. Now, we are currently seeing here on the weekly time frame, we are trying to break out of this symmetrical triangle here locally that we've been forming since October 6th, October 10th, more specifically. And yeah, so this is not good for the crypto market in general, right? If we get to move back up toward the top trend line here, we could see continued downside for Bitcoin and altcoins, right? We're at 5.2%. That trend line is going to come in at around 6%, right? This is USDT dominance. People move their Bitcoin and their altcoins into USDT when they're scared and when they want to realize profits, right? So when we see the USDT dominance increasing, that money is coming out of crypto. So this is an actual chart that's based on actual data of people moving money from Bitcoin and other cryptos into stablecoin, USDT, right? I'd say the good thing about this right now is the fact that we're trading in this channel, because we know that we have resistance up here, which means in the event of another dip, we could look for a pullback from here, right? This was August. So either we do something like this, where we make a nice rounded bottom, but it still gives us time to get one last big push, or in a more extreme event, we could come all the way back down to the bottom of the channel, right? In which case, we could really see a big push for crypto in general, Bitcoin and altcoins. So, you know, these are the major levels to be looking for right now in the USDT dominance on the higher term time frames. We want to be looking at like around 6%, this upper trend line here, and around 3.6% dominance at this lower trend line right here. Now, of course, if we break the resistance, guys, then I'd say that this resistance on USDT dominance, this is the gateway into the bear market, right? It's the gateway into the bear market. And then we would be looking for, you know, some bearish divergences on USDT, right? Like we saw here, right? Price closing higher candles, momentum getting lower. That was pretty much the bottom in November 2022, right? It's inversely correlated to Bitcoin. So this is overall how the crypto market is looking in general. I do want to take a quick look at ETH as well. Let's take a quick look at ETH. So again, there's a chance that we could see big pushes, even though we know that the writing is on the wall, and we're gonna see a pullback. In 2026, I'm fully expecting a significant pullback of more than 30%. But that does not exclude the possibility of Bitcoin making a double top, which allows money to now flow into altcoins. And ETH, as long as ETH is going to be holding this key intersectionality here of the massive trend line that we've had since 2021, and this key high volume node of $3,300, I'd say we are holding major support. We are holding major support. And this looks like a breakout and a backtest where some of our targets could be based on Fibonacci extension levels. We're talking around a $7,000 ETH, potentially up to an $8,500 ETH based on Fibonacci extension levels. And again, this could happen very, very quickly. Because again, remember, when you see large amount of money come into the altcoins, it happens quick, right? Look at what happened back in 2024. You know, in a matter of a few weeks, we saw a 71% pump in ETH. Look what happened here in ETH since April, right? Since April. In the matter of, you know, about 3 months, we saw a 250% increase, all right? 250% from where we're at right now would put us at about, let's see here, let's get our measurement tool. From where we exactly are right now, 250%. Wow, that would put us at a $12,000 ETH. So we don't even need to have anywhere close of what we had since April to hit some of these fib targets, right? Our 1.618 fib target is only 138% from where we are right now. That's a pretty conservative target. That's a pretty conservative target. So these are not astronomical levels to hit, so long as the elements are right. And again, what elements do we want to see? We want to see Bitcoin doing something like this, all right? We want to see Bitcoin basically holding this sideways range that we're in right here, right? Holding the sideways range right here. And as long as we're holding this zone, yeah, we could bounce from the bottom, we could reject from the top. So Bitcoin makes a double top like this, comes back up towards the top of the range here. We get everybody super bullish, bull market's back on, says everybody. People start now moving money into altcoins. We finally start to see that Bitcoin dominance start to drop, right? Because the Bitcoin dominance chart does look bearish. So it continues to drop and the money's coming into crypto. Bitcoin's chilling in this range up here after a double top. And now we have the time for the altcoins to make their big moves. Happens very quick. And then we can enter into the real bear market, right? And where I expect, like, I'm leaning between a 50 to a 70% pullback this bear market. And I'll give you my worst case scenario target for the bear market right now. All right, my worst case scenario target for the bear market is going to be, let's assume a top. Let's assume we make a double top here. Let's say Bitcoin comes back up. We hit 130,000, right? If that's the case, my target for the bear market is going to be right around here, all right? Right around here between the prices of about 35 and 45K. That's my worst case scenario. My best case scenario is 65 to 75. My worst case scenario is between 35 and 45. Why 35 and 45? Well, as long as the 4-year cycle has been a thing, Every bear market, we come down into the zone between the 786 and 886 fib every single time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Happened 4 out of 4 times. So far, 100% chance this has happened. Now, because of the ETF and because of wide-scale adoption by institutions and governments, we might not see such a large pullback this time, which is why I'm looking at the 65 to 75% zone. But if the 4-year cycle is still intact, and we're still going to see that large pullback, then the chances are we're going to come back down to the zone between the 786 and 886 fib. This gives us around a $40,000 Bitcoin. All right, I think what's going to happen is we're going to front run 31,000. Everybody is going to be looking at this, right? Once we start to lose 50K, everyone's going to be like, well, you know, the next major support that we have is going to be down here at $31,000, right? But we have our 786 right here, and we have also this area right around here. So I think we just dip into this zone, and that's going to be our bottom. We're not going to come as low as some people are going to call for. I think a lot of people, once Bitcoin loses 50K, we're going to start to see some crazy downward predictions, you know? That's kind of my view on it. So if Bitcoin's under 50K, I'm going to be buying it a lot. If Bitcoin's ever under 40K, I'm going to be irresponsibly buying, like irresponsibly buying Bitcoin under 40K, you know. But, I irresponsibly bought under 20K, and it worked out very well. So I'm ready to do it again, right? I am ready to do it again. It's very interesting. Just looking at this here, we have this rising wedge, and if we break down from this rising wedge, I mean, this is on log scale, mind you. If we break down from the rising wedge on log scale, man, I mean, I remember we had this kind of guy going on here. Oh my goodness, oh. I mean, we could technically pull it down from here. Yeah, if we're gonna pull it down from here, I mean, the target of the wedge would literally be our 786, right? Take all the liquidity from the wedge, and then bounce, right? Pretty much the same as here. Target was the 786. Target was our 786. Man, we took all the liquidity. We filled all this. We front ran the support resistance flip, right? The major support resistance flip that we had down here at around 13,000, we front ran it, and then boom, right? So same kind of deal. Front run the major support resistance flip, hit the 786, the target of our wedge, and then boom, right? Again, this is like very speculative high time frame analysis here, but it is important to always have a plan, right? That's how we trade in the Casper crew. You know, the short trade from the exact top, from the setup, given in advance, taken in real time, you know, at jasoncaspertrading.com. The long trade that I'm currently in right now, given by Boyan in advance, because he had a plan for that level, all right? Or even this short trade that I'm in here. This is a hedge short that I took publicly in the VIP Discord last week, hedging against the long trade that we took from the lows. And it's because we had a plan, right? So the reason we do the high time frame analysis is to get a plan. By the way, guys, if you want to trade Bitcoin and altcoins, I'm trading on, first of all, KSEX with the lowest fees in the game, 0% limit order, 0.01% market order, 0% spot fees, and 0% withdrawal fees. It's an amazing deal right now. You could literally scalp the 5-second time frame and be profitable with such low fees. All right, Weeks has amazing fees as well. Blowfin's doing real great as well. All right, these are the 3 exchanges I'm trading on. Is KSEX, Blowfin, and Weeks. All right, links in the description. Also, if you want to join the Casper crew, you can go to jasoncaspertrading.com, where every single month we have games, we do giveaways. It's a great community, the best community in the world. I mean, look at that picture. Look, I'm literally missing my right arm. You could tell it's legit, all right? That's pretty cool, all right? Shout out to everybody in the chat. We've got about 1,200 people, only 300 likes. Can we get the likes up to the watchers? Yeah, KSEX does rock. Institutions are getting wrecked as we speak, not just retail. Interesting. Funny how many people don't believe in the theory of evolution. It's just a theory, so I guess I understand. I mean, I don't really believe in the theory of evolution. I don't even know if I believe in the theory of gravity, to be honest. Thesis, says Solid Snake 046. OG Bitcoin holders are going to crack into sell their Bitcoin and rotate into Stronghold and do over-the-counter trading as not to influence the price. This is a legit thesis. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Is there an egg code for today's stream? Yes. The egg code is paper. Paper. All right? Paper. The egg code is paper. You sent me an email. Can you open up a ticket? Maybe you can open up a ticket. Gold dump, Bitcoin dump. So where's that money going? That's a really good question. Let's quickly take a look at gold here. How's gold doing? This is the weekly time frame on gold. Again, we have this parabola that we have broken down from. And honestly, if we come down to $3,600 gold, I look at that as an amazing opportunity. I look at that as an amazing opportunity. That's going to be a major support resistance flip right there. Golden pocket. You know, what a crazy pump we've had on gold, honestly. That would be a nice opportunity to get some gold on spot. I mean, I would definitely buy some spot gold at 3,600 or below. Yeah, gold's dumping, Bitcoin's dumping, altcoins are dumping. Where's the money going? Well, the stock market's not dumping. The stock market's not dumping. S&P's not dumping. NASDAQ is not dumping. The dollar's not dumping. Interestingly enough, looks like people are putting their money in the dollar and they're putting it in stocks. You know, that seems to be where the money's going right now. S&P 500 still just acting like nothing's going on. All right. Doji weekly candle, we're basically at the same price we were last week after a big gap up. Right? Big gap up last week. And we're basically just chilling out here. This is the weekly time frame on the S&P 500. S&P 500 is just hanging on out there. Nvidia's pumping. Let's check out Nvidia. Wow. Nvidia's pumping. Look at this on the day. Man, stocks is the play, huh? Stocks is the real play. Nvidia up on the day, about 2%. That's crazy. Nvidia up on the week. Oh my goodness. Look at this. We even gapped up from last week's close here. 2% gap from last week. Let's see. In last week, pumped about 12%. Man, this is the new Bitcoin, man. This is the new Bitcoin. Let's check this out, actually. Man. Look at that. We had this resistance breaking out. Maybe if we came back down for a back test, that could look nice. Can you imagine we come back down just to back test the trend line? That could look nice. Let's pull a fib here. Low to high. Let's put on our 50% retracement. Let's pull some volume of this little range. See where we come. Where do we come? Where do we come? Come on, man. What's going on here? What's going on? Nvidia is bigger than Germany's market cap. No new video on my Bible channel this week. I could upload one. I could upload a video on the Bible channel. Do I even understand how gravity works? Do you? Do you understand how gravity works? Look, there's a lot of different theories out there. Some people think the entire universe is electromagnetic. I mean, really, the theory of gravity If you really think about it, I mean, we have to say, well, look, we don't really know how it works, so we're going to invent this stuff called dark matter and dark energy to force it to work. Right? We don't understand it, so we're just going to invent this thing that we can't detect, but we know it's there because our theory doesn't work without something else. We don't know what that something else is, so we're just going to make up this stuff called dark matter, dark energy. There we go. Now our theory works because of dark energy. But look, if dark matter and dark energy is real, then yeah, we know how gravity works. But if it's not real, then we have no idea. You know? Just throwing that out there. The entire universe is a Pokemon. Logitech 1 says, my balls are making gravity. It's how I'm holding my lung. Okay. Yeah, dark matter, it does resemble faith. Yeah, it is. It definitely is. You gotta have faith in it. You gotta have faith in the dark matter. But, yeah, the money, the classic crypto question, where's the money going? It's going into stocks. That's where it's been going. Man, look at NVIDIA pumping. Guys, what else should we look at? All right, pop some stuff in the chat here. Am I officially become a Jew? I don't know. I'll have to check. Might have to renew my license, my Jew license. The universe is just one big blue candle. I mean, I like that. I could jive with that. Palantir? Yeah, let's check it out. David B, not financial advice. Palantir, good old AI, right? Man, it is pumping. AI, that's the play. Stocks and AI, that's the play, man. Look at this. This is pumping. Let's check out the daily here. So, major breakout of this resistance here. Little breakout back test. I say right now, if we can come down to 188, that seems like a very nice zone. 50% retracement right now. Support resistance flip right now. What else we got here? I guess volume might not work on these assets. Yeah, I mean, I can't see that this is going to be bearish anytime in the future. I mean, AI is the future. They're partnered with NVIDIA. They're partnered with the government. They're partnered with the military-industrial complex. It's my opinion that AI is going to pretty much govern the future. I feel like we're heading into a world where there's going to be not so much government, but governance. And it's going to be run primarily by AI because people are going to come to a point where we just can't trust each other anymore. And we want something more objective. And for some reason, people are going to feel that AI is the objective thing to govern everybody. So yeah, this is definitely the play. You know, we have not even seen the beginning of the impact of artificial intelligence on society. It's amazing how quickly it's come in to our lives. Where now, you know, more people use ChatGPT and Grok for search inquiries than Google. Like, they're putting Google out, man. The Google AI is struggling to keep up with ChatGPT. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Good old grok. My passive freedom says Jim started Jason, not the other way around. Okay. This is a great question, says the Asset House 2070. Jay, was there ever a point in history where the high time frames and MACD were turning down and the crypto market and alts specifically pumped? Let's take a look at that, man. I don't think so. I don't think so, but I've never looked at the MACD compared to the alts. So let's go to the Bitcoin index here. Let's go to the monthly. Let's put on the McDonald's. All right. Let's put on the McDonald's. Oof. What time frame should we look at? Should we look at the monthly? This is the monthly. So we are right about here, guys. We are right about here as compared to the MACD. We'll take it off log scale here. About to get that cross, like maybe one candle before, and then we'll also look right here. This is where it happened before that, and then the time before that, it was right over here. One candle before. All right, so we've got our MACDs. So every monthly MACD cross has been the top, and we are right now right here, okay? So that is, I don't know how much data we have with like altcoin cap, but that's the spring of 2018, the winter of 2021, all right? So the spring of 2018. You know, what's interesting is in the spring of 2018, we had this massive giant blue candle here, okay? And then December 2021. So in December 2021, we had the MACD cross on the monthly, and boom, it was straight down for altcoins. In the spring of, was it April or May? Let's go back to our index. It was April. Okay, so when we got the cross, it was straight down, right? That cross happened in May, and then it was pretty much straight down. So no, it's never happened before. It's never happened before where we get this macro MACD cross on the monthly, and then we see an altcoin season. So we really are hoping for a lot here. We really are hoping for a lot right now, to be honest. To be honest and to be real. All right. Mac and Cheese D. I call it the McDonald's. Liberty and Trust says 4-year cycle is up. Out of time. Yeah, I mean, Hopium Copium, do you think the cycle is still going to go here? Or you think the 4-year cycle is still intact? Hopium Copium? Planned Parenthood was created by a social Darwinist? Am I breaking into a conversation here? What does that have to do with crypto? Mickey D's has Chips Ahoy Frappe. Really? No way. I have not been to McDonald's since 2018, and I was very disappointed. All right, very, very disappointed. See, I used to eat fast food multiple times a day, and I used to love fast food a lot in my 20s, early 20s, late teens, right? And then when I got married, I started to get a little bit healthier, right? Anyway, in 2018, I went on a vacation with my wife. It was a crypto cruise, actually. With all our crypto gains, we went on a super fancy vacation to the Bahamas, right? And I ate McDonald's, I ate Taco Bell, I ate Burger King, and I was underwhelmed. I couldn't believe how horrible, how disgusting the food was. How did I get into this long trade? Well, look, this is a Boyan level. Boyan gave this level this morning during his London Open live stream, all right? This box down here, the Boyan level. And so I had an alert there. And when I saw that we came down to the level and we were getting a bounce and Market Cypher B had bullish divergence, I decided to take the scalp. And I hit my TP1 at the VWAP. All right, TP1 at the VWAP. But I guess this is the McDonald's. Even on the McDonald's, we've got some bullish divergence here, right? A little bit of bull div at a Boyan level. For me, it's a scalp. I still expect a little bit lower here. All right, I still expect a little bit lower here. McDonald's is poison, it's trash. Is MEXD so good exchange? Right now, I'm pretty much trading on KSEX, Blowfin, and Weeks. All right, I have not taken a trade on MEXD in a long time. I don't... Look, here's the deal. I can't tell you whether or not an exchange is good or bad, all right? But what I would say is no matter what exchange you trade on, make sure you're never keeping all your money on the exchange, right? A fraction of the capital on the exchange, and make sure that if you have any feeling that it's not a good exchange, then just get off, right? If you have any doubts, just get off. Go to a different exchange. You know? Yeah, Carl from the Moon's gonna be mad. I know. Fast food can be healthy depending on what you spring on the food. Here in the EU, McDonald's tastes amazing. No MSG, really? Okay. All right, cool. Maybe, I don't know. Like, I'm on a healthy diet kick, right? I've been really enjoying, in my 30s, taking good care of myself. Like, I've been really enjoying eating whole foods and not eating out. And my palate has changed. Like, when I was in my 20s, me and my wife, we used to go to Chili's, right? Chili's, the restaurant here. Because for like 25, 30 bucks, we could get like a beer and as many chips as we could eat, and we could get like fajitas and all this for like 30 bucks, right? It's crazy. And that was like our super fancy date that we do it a lot before we had kids. When you would just go out randomly, right? I can't believe I ate all that crap. I was talking to my wife today. I can't believe I would literally stuff myself with as much seed oil, GMO corn chips I could possibly eat, with seed oil doused fajitas with some GMO glyphosate covered tortillas. I remember the next day, man, literally like my face would be puffy, right? But the workouts were great, all right? You can't go to Chili's and eat as much seed oil, GMO corn chips, all that sodium and MSG, and the next day at the gym, I'm telling you, the chest pump is going to be out of this world. Don't look at the abs, all right? Abs are going to be gone, all right? But you go out, you have yourself a beer, as many corn chips as you can eat, doused in seed oil, some seed oil doused fajitas, and you are going to have some kind of crazy pump the next day. But you're going to feel like garbage, all right? Oh, no way, man. Your wife was on a cruise and she played 2 shows? That's pretty cool, man. That is pretty cool. What is my diet like now? Just whole foods, really. Just chicken, beef, fish, eggs, dairy. And then for carbs, it's mostly fruit, roots. Yeah, just mostly fruits, roots, and vegetables. Quinoa. I'll eat, and I've been starting to get into sourdough bread, actually. Einkorn sourdough bread. I've been starting to mess with that. I actually really like it. Makes me feel pretty good. A beer on a beer. Ha! My kids are gonna laugh watching me on these streams. Man, they're gonna laugh even the stuff I did before these streams. Man, seriously. What did I do on Halloween? I did absolutely nothing. I didn't even remember that it was Halloween. You're Sicilian, you grew up on olive oil. Olive oil is great. I do eat lots of extra virgin olive oil as well. Olive oil, I eat olive oil. I eat a lot of butter, grass-fed butter, and if I have to cook something in oil, I usually use avocado oil, which I don't know if that's good or not. I still have to look into it. Bitcoin taking a dump. Yeah, real olive oil, that's the way to go. Sourdough bread, you had the same starter for 6 years? Yeah, that's what I want to get into sourdough bread, because I bought some sourdough bread at a local farm. It wasn't made at the farm, but it was sold at the farm. It was einkorn sourdough bread, and I was eating it like a lot, and I really, really like the way it makes me feel. Like here's the thing about wheat. Like, wheat gives you good energy, but if you eat it too much, it starts to like have a negative effect, and I'm pretty sure that's just because the wheat that we have here in the United States is covered in glyphosate, and it's hybridized, and there's no probiotics in it, right? So this einkorn is like ancient wheat, how wheat like existed before it was industrialized. And the sourdough with all those probiotics, like, it gives you the same energy as wheat, but it doesn't, it feels good. It doesn't like slow you down. You know what I'm saying? Do I drink wine? I don't drink wine. I do love wine. I love wine, but I don't drink alcohol really. Yeah, I don't really like the way alcohol makes me feel. If you chill your rice, freeze your bread, it changes the molecular structure and makes you healthier. Really interesting. Wait till you can grow muscles with AI. Over for the gym bros. Yeah, I mean, it might already be over for the gym bros with all these new peptides, right? Coming out, like the peptides that make you like grow muscle for no reason and lose fat for no reason. I have a feeling like in the future we're going to see a lot of like jacked, lean, jacked people that like are super unhealthy just because of the peptides. And yeah, for sure, like when everyone's in the metaverse, sitting on the couch with their AI goggles on, you'll be able to look however you want. After you start eating healthy and going to the gym, how long did it take me to stick to it? Well, it's hard to say. I've been going to the gym since I was probably like 15, on and off. So like, I didn't get serious about lifting weights until 2018. It's so easy for me to stick to. I don't know what else to say. I've always loved working out. I mean, even in my own unhealthiest moments in life, going to the gym high, smoke a blunt in the car on the way to the gym, you know, I'd still be going to the gym, right? And yeah, maybe I'd just do 1 or 2 sets and then walk to Taco Bell across the street for a cheesy gordita crunch. But it was always real easy for me to stick to going to the gym. Let's just put it that way. What do I think about weed? I think that weed, it can be, man, I'm going to piss off a lot of people here. I think weed is not good for humans. I don't think it's good for humans. All right, I think it has negative physical and spiritual effects. All right, I'll be honest with you. I used to smoke weed multiple times a day, every day. I was a huge stoner. Used to love it. Like, I loved weed. I would say that all the time. I would catch myself saying that. I'd be like, man, I love weed. Then I'd really think about that. I love weed? That's a little weird. But then, yeah, so the Lord made it very clear to me I shouldn't partake in that anymore. Right? Spiritually, it kept me in spiritual bondage. All right? It kept me in spiritual bondage. When I finally renounced marijuana usage from my life, I felt myself being set free from spiritual bondage. So that's what I think about marijuana. But if you want to do it, then go, by all means, do it. Like, see, here's the thing. Because I'm a very libertarian kind of guy. Like, if I didn't have that personal experience with weed, where I knew, like, for me, it was not okay, I would view it the same way I view any other drug, which is, or I shouldn't say drug. Some drugs are just really not good for you. I view it the same way I view alcohol, right? Which is like, okay, you want to do it once in a while, whatever. And as long as you're not like destroying your life with it, then okay, whatever. But for me, it's a no-go. Yeah, Divine Hood says working out is a form of release. Yeah, me too. Like if I'm feeling down, I love to go to the gym. If I'm feeling good, I love to go to the gym. If I'm excited, I love to go to the gym. If I'm bored, I like to go to the gym. I just love working out. All right, Dog World 3485. Like, look, I have nothing to agree or disagree with you about it. You know, I can just give you my own view. Christ delivered you from weed also. Yeah, he delivered me from it. Yeah, for sure. Because it was a huge part of my life. It was a huge part of my life. You smoke and go to the gym? Yeah, you know what's weird is like I was never the kind of guy who could smoke and like function. I always wanted to be that guy. The guy who like can't go to work unless he's high. I used to want to be that guy, but I was the guy that would get high and then my whole day's shot. You know? Be like, let me see if I could like smoke and then go to the gym. I do like 2 or 3 sets and then I'd be, you know, walking to Taco Bell or whatever. Let me see, I'm gonna smoke and then I'm gonna try and like write some music. I'd write like this tiny little riff, maybe it was good. Couldn't think of anything else. But for me, it really stole my productivity. It also stole my life. You know, you look back and you realize I've literally been high for months and like everything's kind of like cloudy memory. You're not really present in the moment when you're with your friends and family. At least this was just my experience. Like, for some reason, I'm sure a lot of you stoners or ex-stoners can relate. You always think to yourself, oh, like, it's Thanksgiving, or it's this family get-together, or it's this, or it's that. Like, you know what? I'm gonna be high for it, because it'll be way better if I'm high, right? So you smoke before, and then you don't get to be present. I don't know how else to explain it. It's good in the moment. Like, I remember having some of the best conversations with, like, for example, my grandfather under the influence of marijuana. But I know they were good conversations, but I don't really remember them too well, you know? You get half-assed about everything. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, like, for me, I would fight that feeling though. Like, I would fight the lazy feeling, but yeah, I would feel really lazy, and I would force myself to do stuff anyway. But without it, it's like just the natural drive is there, you know. American bread has 30 ingredients. Italian bread only has 4. I've heard that too, you know. Can I show my screens and treadmill? I've showed it before, you know. I've showed it before. It's not anything fancy, you know? It's really not anything fancy. Do I ever regret smoking and drinking? No, I don't really regret it, just because, at the time, I mean, thankfully, I'm very thankful to God that I don't have any negative consequences to pay for it, because he protected me, I guess, during that time, making stupid decisions. But I will say this, I'm very, very thankful that I stopped, because, you know, I have a lot of friends, you know, when you're 19, when you're 20, and everyone's like partying all the time, it's normal. The problem is some people now are 35 and they're still doing that. Like, people I know from back in the day, they're 35, they're still doing that. They literally pushed pause on their life. They pushed pause on their life when they were like 17, and they're still that same 17-year-old person, just wasting time, just wasting their life, you know? So I'm very thankful I didn't get myself into a situation like that, where all of a sudden I'm 35 and I'm like, man, I gotta get my life together, you know? The Lord took me out of that at just the right time. The Libertarian says, at 38, after 14 years of consistent 4 to 5 days of lifting and cardio, the injuries and the pain compiles and the working out, just something to keep at. So you had a negative time with that? I'm a big proponent of mobility and eating healthy, taking care of your body. Like, you really got to take care of the body. Interesting. You bought a loaf of bread and threw it away over 6 months after it still wasn't moldy. Shout out to Code Magic, who's going to take a huge rip for me right now. Well, thanks, man. You know? I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. You know, whatever floats your boat, man. I'm a libertarian. Do whatever you want to do. That's how I feel. Just don't bother me. Just don't infringe on my right to do what I want to do. But you do what you want to do. You know? I'm an old school liberal before they became communists. You know? Fasting, you want to talk about fasting? Fasting's great. Spiritual purposes, fasting is great. You know? Starve the body and feed the spirit. You see people who don't smoke weed waste their lives too. Yeah, I mean, that gets into some more deeper philosophical kind of things, man. You know? Like, what is the purpose of life and all that kind of stuff. But I agree. I see a lot of people where I look at them and I feel that they are also wasting their life. But I'm sure people look at me and say, you know what? Jason Casper is wasting his life. So, you know. I love guns more than weed. Do you really love guns more than weed? Okay. Why do people care so much about how others want to live? Yeah, I don't really get that, man. The only way I think people should care is if the way other people live affects them. Like, you know, if you're going to live in a way that is going to affect the way I want to live, then I'm not okay with that. You know what I'm saying? So if you're down, just for example, with certain ideologies or certain policies or certain legislation that's going to make me not be able to do what I want to do, then I have a problem with that. But yeah. What would wreck most people on Bitcoin for a juicy long? I mean, I say a dip down to 94 would give us a really good bounce. Because everyone's going to be expecting a bounce from 100K. So I think a dip down to 94 would be nice, you know. Can I show my screens and treadmill? Guys, I don't have anything fancy. I have a laptop and a desk that my father-in-law built for me out of wood. And I have a cheap Amazon treadmill. And I have a Marcus Cypher shirt and a Casper crew hat. Got myself some blue blocking glasses, and that's my whole setup, man. You know, that's the whole setup right here. But, I'm non-binary, gender fluid, carbon emissions, so I live with everyone. That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, 98K SFP, CD. Yeah, I think we can get 98K CDW, like a bounce from around $100,000, but then I think it's going to be short-lived and we dip lower. But it's 2 p.m. my time, which means I gotta go, y'all. So God bless everyone. In Jesus' name. And I pray you all have a wonderful evening, and Lord willing, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.